Hey, what's up, guys? Welcome back to AITA Chronicles, where Reddit drama doesn't just get told, it hits home. Now, listen, today's episode, it's not just messy, it's straight up emotional warfare. We're starting with a gut punch, a man who finds out his son isn't his after 9 years of being a father. Then we spiral into a wife cheating because she thought her husband was sleeping with her affair partner's mom. Like, what even is this timeline? You've got a couple who's been together for 5 years and has never had sex. A mom finally telling her gay son the truth about her own brother's tragic death. And a grieving parent cutting off their in-laws after they failed to show up, literally and emotionally, while their daughter was dying. It's betrayal. It's heartbreak. It's people finally standing up for themselves after being walked on for years. You'll sit here thinking, no way they're still together after this. Or how are these people real? So whether you're multitasking, laying in bed, hiding in the bathroom for peace and quiet, or just looking for someone else's family drama to make you feel a little more sane, stick around. Because this lineup, it starts strong and keeps dragging you deeper and deeper. And hey, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that bell. We're on the road to 10,000 subscribers, and every click gets us one step closer. If you love raw, real, jaw-dropping stories, this is the channel to binge. Now let's dive into the chaos. AITA for abandoning my so-called family after discovering the truth. Let's not sugarcoat anything. This one is brutal. This isn't your average breakup. This isn't just another cheating scandal. This is a man, let's call him Ryder, watching his entire reality crack wide open, and when the dust settles, he realizes nothing about his life was what he thought it was. We're talking about betrayal so deep it doesn't just break your heart, it questions your existence. Ryder is 32 years old, married since he was 20. He's been with his wife for over a decade. Together they've raised a little boy, or so he thought. A child he's loved, cared for, and sacrificed for, now 9 years old. For all this time, Ryder believed he was this boy's father. But here's where the story takes a sharp, gut-wrenching turn. Recently, the suspicion he's carried for years finally snapped into confirmation. His wife was cheating. Caught red-handed. No more doubts. No more paranoia. Just cold, brutal truth staring him in the face. Now, Ryder didn't storm out forever. He didn't go nuclear. He went to a hotel, tried to create space, tried to salvage something for the sake of the kid. They agreed to halfway work through things. For the child, for the history, for what they had built. And then, her best friend enters the picture. Now, this isn't just some friend. This is someone with a reputation. Someone who flirts with fire and doesn't care who gets burned. They run into each other, drinks flow, emotions run high. And yeah, they end up back at Ryder's hotel room. But, and this is important, nothing happened. She tried to kiss him and Ryder couldn't do it because despite everything, he still had a line. But the next morning, the universe made sure that line didn't matter. His wife shows up, unexpected. The scene erupts, screaming, chaos. Cops get called, Ryder gets thrown out of the hotel. And in the middle of all of this madness, she throws one final grenade. He's not even your son. Let that sink in. For 9 years, Ryder believed he was this child's father. For 9 years, he changed diapers, stayed up sick nights, watched first steps, kissed boo-boos, paid bills, sacrificed time, energy, and sanity to be a father. And she says he's not even the father. At first, he doesn't believe her. Who would? You'd think this is just venom, something said in rage. But the pain doesn't leave, it lingers, it festers, so Ryder takes the plunge. He gets a DNA test, and the results? He's not the father. Everything crashes at once. But somehow, it gets even worse. Because not only has he been lied to for nearly a decade, but his son already knew. She had been taking the boy to see his biological father once a month for 2 years, behind Ryder's back, while he thought they were rebuilding, while he thought they were fixing the broken pieces. She was already shuttling their child to see another man, the real dad, the man who had threatened court, forced her hand, and been integrated into this kid's life without Ryder even having a clue. And that broke something in him. Not just the betrayal, not just the lies, but the disrespect. The way he wasn't even allowed to be part of that conversation. the way she had removed his agency as a parent while smiling to his face. So what did Ryder do? He left. No big speech, no final moment, no dramatic exit. He just walked away from the wreckage, and he hasn't looked back in 6 months. Here's the question. Is he the asshole for walking away from the only family he's ever known? From the child he once called his son? Let's be honest. Some people will say yes. They'll say, but the boy didn't do anything. They'll say, you're still the only father he's ever known. They'll say he needs you. And those things might be true. But you know what else is true? Ryder was robbed. He was deceived. He was emotionally gutted, gaslit, and stripped of the right to choose his own role in that child's life. He was forced into being a placeholder, a babysitter with a marriage license, a convenience. And when the truth finally came out, it wasn't even told to him with remorse. It was weaponized. That's not just betrayal. That's emotional warfare. Now, could Ryder have handled it differently? Maybe. Could he have sat down with the boy, explained things carefully, made a clean transition? Possibly. But let's be real. How do you explain this kind of betrayal when you're still choking on it yourself? How do you parent a child who already knows you're not his real dad when you didn't even know that yourself? How do you trust again when the people closest to you use trust as a leash? Ryder didn't walk away out of cruelty. He walked away because everything he thought was real was a lie, and he needed to survive it. And sometimes survival looks like silence. Sometimes it looks like disappearing. Sometimes it looks like finally saying, I have nothing left to give. So is Ryder the asshole in this story? No. He's a broken man trying to stitch together the pieces of a life he no longer recognizes. A man betrayed by the person who swore to be his partner. A man who gave everything only to find out none of it mattered. He's not heartless. He's just human. And sometimes being human means saying, I'm done. If this one hit deep, if you've ever loved someone who used your loyalty like a weapon, like comment and subscribe. Because stories like this, they don't just expose betrayal, they show us what healing really looks like. And Ryder, he's not running. He's rebuilding, one shattered piece at a time. AITA for refusing to forgive my wife for having an affair when she claims the affair partner lied that I was sleeping with his mom. This story doesn't start with betrayal. It starts with trust. Decades of trust. The kind of trust that comes from building a life with someone, from watching your hair gray together, from raising kids, paying bills, sharing morning coffee, watching the seasons of life roll on, side by side. Ryder is 55 years old. He's been with his wife, Jennifer, 53, long enough that words like forever didn't feel dramatic. They felt like facts. Until one day, he stumbled across something he wasn't meant to see. Proof. Concrete evidence that Jennifer, his wife, his partner, his supposed ride or die, was sleeping with someone else. But not just anyone. A 23-year-old man named Nathan. Now pause here. We're not talking about a tragic slip-up, a one-night regret. This was an affair. An ongoing relationship behind closed doors with a man young enough to be their son. Let that sink in. So Ryder confronts her, calmly, maybe. Hurt, definitely. What he didn't expect was her reaction. Jennifer didn't cry. She didn't beg. She got angry. She didn't deny the affair. No, she deflected. She turned the tables. Suddenly, she's accusing Ryder of having an affair with Naomi, Nathan's mother, their 47-year-old neighbor. Yes, you heard that right. This was like a twisted soap opera written by someone on their third glass of wine and a vengeance high. Ryder, blindsided, stood his ground and did what many in his position never get the chance to do. He proved he was innocent. He had evidence that he was not sleeping with Naomi. He had receipts, timelines, you name it. And that was when Jennifer's story changed. Now, suddenly, it wasn't her fault. Now she says Nathan tricked her, that he manipulated her, that he made her feel loved, that he lied to her and said, Ryder was cheating with his mom, just to pull her in emotionally. She pulls out messages Nathan had sent her, messages that reference this alleged affair between Ryder and Naomi, messages full of flattery and emotional bait. She tells Ryder she was insecure, that she didn't feel beautiful anymore, that she felt unwanted, that Nathan made her feel seen. Seen. Let's talk about that word, because it's the word people cling to when they want to justify betrayal, when the guilt starts to settle and they need something to explain it away. He saw me. He made me feel good. He told me things I wanted to hear. But here's the cold truth. Being flattered doesn't justify betrayal. And feeling insecure doesn't grant you a permission slip to iterate trust. Jennifer didn't just sleep with someone. She believed the worst about the man who had stood beside her for decades without even talking to him. She let another man's words convince her her husband was cheating without ever looking him in the eye and asking. And when she got caught, she didn't own it. She didn't say sorry. She tried to deflect blame onto her husband, to spin it, to make herself the victim. Now, Ryder has moved out of the house. He's trying to breathe again, trying to make sense of the betrayal that didn't just come from a stranger, but from the person he trusted most. Jennifer is begging now, crying, calling, repeating the same line over and over again. I was tricked. But Ryder isn't buying it, because let's be real, even if Nathan lied, even if he spun a web of deceit, even if he played every emotional card, she still made a choice. She still took off her ring emotionally and physically and gave herself to someone else. She still chose not to come to her husband and say, I feel insecure. She still decided to believe another man over the one she built her life with. So now Ryder's being called cold, unforgiving, harsh. But is he the asshole? Let's be very clear, no. Because forgiveness is not an obligation, especially not when the person begging for it only started taking responsibility after they were caught, especially when their first instinct was to lie and throw you under the bus. And what about Naomi? Did Jennifer think for even a second about her? About what it would mean to drag another woman's name into this? A neighbor, no less? This wasn't just betrayal. This was character assassination, all to cover her own guilt. So no, Ryder isn't the asshole. He's a man who's had the rug ripped out from under him. A man who was loyal and got stabbed in the back by the person he trusted to protect his heart. And the worst part, the only reason Jennifer is sorry now is because she got caught. So if forgiveness isn't on the table, that's fair. She gambled with their marriage. She rolled the dice with a 23-year-old boy. And now that the house of cards has come crashing down, she wants a reset? Nah. Sometimes the most honest thing you can do is walk away. Not out of hate, not out of revenge, but out of self-respect. If this hit you deep, if you've ever been betrayed by the one person who should have been your safe place, like, comment, and subscribe. And to Ryder, you're not wrong for protecting your peace. Sometimes survival means saying, you broke it, and I don't owe you the pieces. My girlfriend and I have never had sex, and it's been almost 5 years. Am I the asshole? Okay, this one cuts deep, because on the surface, this might look like a simple post about sex, or the lack of it. But once you peel that first layer, you realize this is about something much heavier. It's about emotional loneliness inside a relationship. It's about unmet needs, silence where there should be connection, and a kind of slow-burning grief that nobody talks about. Our writer is a 27-year-old man, and for almost 5 years, he's been in a committed relationship with a woman he loves. 26 years old, beautiful, smart, successful. They live together, they're close. Her family adores him. To the outside world, it probably looks like they've got it all. But behind the walls of that shared home, behind the smiles and the day-to-day normalcy, there's something missing. They have never had sex. Not once. Not at the beginning, not through the years, not ever. Let that sink in for a second. Imagine spending half a decade waiting for something so intimate, so natural in a romantic relationship, only to be met with silence, tears, guilt, and more waiting. And to be clear, this isn't just about being physically deprived. This is about being emotionally stuck between loving someone and constantly sacrificing something important just to keep that love alive. At first, Ryder thought it was part of the tension building, the flirtation, a slow burn, a game of anticipation. But that slow burn never ignited into anything. And year after year, he's tried to gently, respectfully bring it up. He didn't push, he didn't shame her, he asked, he opened the door. And every time, she cried, she got defensive. She called him insensitive for always bringing it up. And here's the thing. Ryder isn't cruel. He's not entitled. He's not dismissing her pain. He acknowledges her diagnosis, vaginismus, a real painful condition. He encouraged her to see a specialist. She even got the tools, the medical ones used to work through the condition. But those tools, they've been collecting dust in her drawer for years. He asked her to get her hormones checked. She did. She went off birth control. Still, nothing changed. And here's where the real heartbreak lives. Ryder isn't angry that she has vaginismus. He's not angry at her for being asexual or having a low drive. He's hurting because he's spent 5 years in a partnership that feels one-sided when it comes to intimacy, and he's not allowed to talk about it without being painted as the villain. He loves her. That's obvious. He misses her when she's gone. He supports her. He cares. He's in this relationship, but he's drowning in silence. And now, with the mention of engagement, she wants a future. She's annoyed that he hasn't proposed yet, that their friends are ahead in the marriage race. But how do you take that leap when you feel like you're about to lock yourself into a life of emotional and physical starvation? How do you agree to forever when you're already running on fumes? And now the writer asks, am I the asshole for feeling resentment, for expecting her to change? Let's be blunt. No, you are not. You are not the asshole for having needs. You are not selfish for wanting a sexual connection with your partner. You're not evil for desiring a level of physical intimacy in a romantic relationship. That's not entitlement. That's human. You didn't demand. You asked. You waited. You supported. You showed compassion. You even hoped that one day something would shift. But 5 years is a long time to sit and hope without any real partnership in effort. And here's the real kicker. Your needs matter too. You're not a caretaker. You're not just a friend. You're supposed to be someone's lover, their person. You can't be faulted for wanting your emotional and physical self to be seen, to be desired. This doesn't mean your girlfriend is a bad person either. She's clearly struggling with something deep, whether it's physical, psychological, or just who she is at her core. Maybe she's asexual, maybe she has trauma she's not ready to face. But the problem isn't that she doesn't want sex. It's that she hasn't been honest with you from the start. And now you're stuck carrying all the confusion, guilt, and loneliness in silence. So let's be real here. You're not wrong for building resentment. That's what happens when someone feels consistently unseen. When your love language is physical connection and the person you love won't even talk about it, it starts to rot from the inside. And if you're scared of waking up 10 years from now in a marriage built on walking on eggshells, wondering if this is all it's ever going to be, you're not crazy. You're finally waking up. You are allowed to want more. You are allowed to walk away if your most fundamental needs are being denied without effort or communication. Because love without intimacy is just friendship with extra guilt. What do you think? Was the writer wrong for wanting more? Or has he sacrificed enough? Let's talk in the comments. And if these brutally honest, deeply human stories resonate with you, hit that subscribe button, like the video, and drop a comment to keep these conversations going. Am I the asshole if I don't tell my gay son about this part of my past? The writer, a 53-year-old father of 3, just got hit with a moment no parent is ever truly prepared for, no matter how loving or accepting they think they are. His 16-year-old son, Ethan, came out as gay. But this isn't one of those happy tears, rainbow flag, proud dad moments. No, the writer broke down, locked himself in his room, didn't speak to anyone. He cried, and not for the reason Ethan probably feared, but for something much, much deeper. See, the writer doesn't care that his son is gay. He truly doesn't. He's been supportive of LGBTQ+ people for decades, even back when it was dangerous, when it cost you jobs, friends, even family. He had a gay brother, 2 years younger, his best friend, his partner in crime, his person. The kind of bond that runs soul deep. But the world didn't care about any of that. One day, 3 guys decided that his brother, his sweet, kind, scrawny brother, looked at them weird. That was it. That was the excuse they needed to beat the life out of him. They shattered his teeth, broke his ribs, twisted his wrist, left him bleeding in the dirt. And the writer, he was there. helpless. He called the police. Only one of the attackers was caught, and nothing happened because it was Nebraska farmland in the 90s, because his brother was gay, because justice didn't exist for people like him. His brother spent 3 days in the hospital, and on the 4th day, he was gone. Suicide. He left a letter that the writer still can't finish reading, 30 years later. Now imagine carrying that weight for 3 decades. Grief so thick it crawls into your bones and never lets go. Waking up every day knowing your brother was hunted for who he was, that your family was relieved when he died, that your parents, the people who should have loved him most, were just happy they didn't have to hide their gay son anymore. That's why the writer cut them off. That's why he never talks about his brother. That's why no one in his household knows the full truth. And now his son comes out. Ethan, 16. Looks just like his uncle. Sometimes the writer swears it's like seeing a ghost. And every time he sees his son smile, laugh, talk, he feels the memory of his brother crash into him like a freight train. The pain hasn't softened, it's sharpened, and it's blurring his ability to act. He hasn't told Ethan the truth. He hasn't told his wife, his kids. No one. They just know he had a brother who died and that he no longer speaks to his parents. The rest, buried. Locked away in a vault of grief and shame and trauma so intense it feels unspeakable. And now, the writer is stuck. His son must think he's disgusted, cold, maybe even homophobic, because he didn't react the right way. Because instead of saying, "I'm proud of you," he fell apart. And the writer knows that. It kills him. But he doesn't know how to say it. Doesn't know how to rip open that wound in front of his child. He knows Ethan deserves the truth. Deserves to know that his dad's silence isn't rejection, it's grief. But every time he opens his mouth, the words choke him. Every time he tries, the tears come first. And so he asks, "Am I the asshole for not telling my gay son what happened to my brother?" And honestly, no, you're not the asshole. You're a broken man trying to protect your son from a kind of cruelty no one should ever face. You're someone still holding the weight of a death you watched unfold. That's not a failure. That's trauma. But here's the thing. Ethan needs to hear it. Not all the gory details, not if you can't manage that yet, but something. A piece of the truth. Enough for him to understand that your pain wasn't because of who he is, but because of what happened to someone just like him. Because right now, Ethan probably feels abandoned, ashamed, like he did something wrong. And you know he didn't. You know that. You're not the asshole. But you're also the only person who can fix this. Even just a conversation. A quiet one. Ethan, when you told me, I broke down because someone I loved, someone like you, was hurt in a way I never got over. I'm proud of you. I love you. I just need a little time to tell you everything. That's enough. He doesn't need perfection. He needs you. Flawed, grieving, terrified, but honest. And maybe, just maybe, telling him the truth might finally start to heal both of you. What would you do if you were the writer? Could you tell your child the truth after carrying that pain for 30 years? Drop your thoughts in the comments, and if this story hit you hard, please like and share. Subscribe for more stories that cut deep, that challenge, that matter. Because real life, it's complicated, and sometimes healing starts with a story. This one isn't about being an asshole, it's about being human. And that's okay. Update, am I the asshole if I don't tell my gay son about this part of my past? This update doesn't come from someone looking for validation. It comes from a father standing knee-deep in his own pain, finally deciding to turn around and face it head-on for the sake of the people he loves most. The writer, a father of 3, had been carrying a secret that aged like rust in his soul. 30 years of silence, 30 years of pain. His 16-year-old son, Ethan, had come out just days ago. But instead of receiving love and warmth, Ethan got silence, distance, tears behind a locked door, not out of hate, but out of grief. Grief so old and buried it had grown teeth. Grief that belonged to the writer's younger brother, the person he called his best friend, his confidant, his baby brother, beaten nearly to death for simply existing, for being gay in the wrong place at the wrong time. Nebraska farmland, 3 attackers, 1 arrest, no justice. And then, just days later, suicide. The writer never truly survived it, and when his own son came out, that wound tore open like it never healed at all, not even a scab. But here's the turning point. This man didn't keep running. He chose to talk. First, he went to his wife. He showed her the original Reddit post. He couldn't say the words out loud. He physically couldn't. But the post, that raw confession, was his voice when his throat failed him. And what happened next? She cried. Hard. Not just for the brother she never knew, but because for a moment she thought her husband had turned cruel, cold. She was considering divorce. That's how far the silence had gone. But now the wall cracked. The writer told her the truth. She stood by him, held him up when he couldn't stand alone. And then came the hardest part of all, Ethan. He couldn't show him the Reddit post. It wasn't enough. So the writer did something beautifully old school. He wrote a letter filled with 30 years of sorrow, a letter that said, "You didn't do anything wrong, I love you, I'm proud of you, I'm sorry I didn't show it." He laid it all bare, what happened to his brother, the guilt, the trauma, the fear. He didn't say it out loud, he couldn't. But the letter said everything. Then he handed it to Ethan. No words, just a trembling hand. A father praying he hadn't broken something he couldn't fix. Ethan read it alone, and then he came bursting into the room, crying, hugging his dad so hard it shook them both. And what he said, "I'm glad you still love me. I really thought you hated me." That sentence shattered the writer, because that's the moment he realized his silence, his trauma, his internal war, it wasn't just hurting anymore, it was scarring his son. That guilt, that realization, it burned, but it also healed, because after that moment, something shifted. Ethan smiled at him for the first time in days. They're going to the movies together tonight, just the two of them, a fresh start, not because everything is magically better, but because now they understand each other. Now they're walking through this pain together. And the writer? He finally took the hardest step of all, therapy. 30 years of bottled up pain, of pretending everything was fine, of haunted nights, sleepless regrets, and an unfinished letter he's never been able to read in full. He's finally going to try and heal, not just for Ethan, not just for his wife, but for himself, and maybe, he'll sleep again one day without seeing his brother's face in the darkness. So, was he ever the asshole? No, he was a broken man doing his best to protect himself from a past that almost destroyed him. But the thing about silence is it doesn't protect, it poisons. And it almost cost him his son's trust. But now, he spoke, he shared, he faced it. And that is bravery in its purest form. How do you forgive yourself for a silence that hurt someone you love? Have you ever had to explain your pain to protect someone else from thinking they were the cause? Let us know in the comments. Your story might be the one that helps someone else take their first step. And don't forget to subscribe for more real, raw, and deeply human Reddit stories. This wasn't about being an asshole. This was about being human. Messy, wounded, but still trying. And sometimes that's the most powerful thing of all. Am I the asshole for cutting off all communication with my in-laws after my 6-year-old died? There are moments in life where silence doesn't feel neutral. It feels like a punch to the gut, a slap to the face. And for the writer, that silence came from people who should have never gone quiet. The writer, a 35-year-old mother, is married to her husband B, and they shared 2 children. Shared. Because now one of them, her 6-year-old daughter, is gone. Not because of an accident, not because of some freak incident, but because of cancer. Aggressive. Vicious. The kind that tears through not just the body, but the entire family. It started when her daughter was just 4 years old, and already limping through life with leg pain that wouldn't go away. Doctors brushed it off, until they found a tumor lodged deep inside her abdomen. The thing was massive, taking up every free inch of space on one side of her tiny body. At first, doctors thought it was benign, but by the time surgery came, the reality was clear. Only 60% could be removed. The rest of it, still inside her, still alive. And soon enough, the biopsy confirmed the worst. It was cancer. Now let's pause here. This is where most families come together. It's where people drop everything to show up, to say, we're here, we're not going anywhere. But instead, the writer and her husband were met with excuses. She had her mom, a woman who drove 8 hours just to stand beside them. But her husband? He asked his parents, his own flesh and blood, to come help, to support, to simply be present. They said no, because they were too busy watching Sill's kids. Now here's the kicker. Seal lived 25 minutes away from the writer. The in-laws? 5 hours. They could have made it easily, but they didn't. And that was just the beginning. Over that long, cruel summer, they kept bailing. Always tied up watching Sill's kids. Always. The writer's daughter was going through chemo, stem cell rescues, immunotherapy, and these people couldn't be bothered because Sile's husband wasn't pulling his weight. So Grandma and Grandpa picked up the slack for the healthy grandkids, while the sick one, the one fighting for her life, got nothing but distance, and even when offered compromise, they still chose to stay away. The writer tried. Oh, she tried. She begged them to visit her daughter exclusively to avoid cross-contaminating her weakened immune system. She suggested a split trip, some days with her daughter, some with Sile's family. But the in-laws made it clear, if they couldn't have all their grandkids at once, they wanted none. Let that sink in. The little girl, she cried. She begged. I miss Grandma. Those weren't just tears. They were wounds. And the writer watched her daughter break a little more every time she asked, why isn't Grandma coming? And it didn't stop. Not even after stem cell rescues, when the doctors had to obliterate her immune system just to keep her alive. Grandma still didn't show up. Even after the cancer came roaring back, spreading like wildfire, devouring the little girl from the inside out. They didn't come. The writer called. She made the calls no parent should ever have to make. Come say goodbye. That's what she said. Goodbye. And they still stayed home. Her daughter died in January, 6 years old, after fighting harder than most adults ever will. And the people she cried for the most, they were absent. Now it's 5 months later, and here's where the writer stands, a grieving mother, hollowed out, furious, and being told by her husband to let it go. Let it go. Because he wants peace, because his parents got defensive when he confronted them, because now he wants her to sweep it all under the rug. For him. For their son. And the writer? She's not having it. She's cut them off. Every thread, every strand, no more pretending, no more open arms. They are not welcome in her home. And she made it clear, if her husband or son want a relationship with them, that's their business. But she will not nurture it. She will not participate in any illusion of family that pretends nothing happened. Now her husband thinks she's being cruel. He thinks she's being unreasonable. But let's be real. Where was that concern for reasonableness when their child was dying? Where was their reason when their granddaughter, begging for them, spent her final weeks wondering why she wasn't enough? So, is the writer the asshole for cutting off her in-laws? Not even close. When someone shows you who they are in the face of life and death, you believe them. You don't let them rewrite history. You don't hand them a clean slate while you're still holding the pieces they shattered. The writer didn't just lose a daughter, she lost faith in the people who claimed to be family. And after all that silence, she's finally done being quiet. What do you think? Has someone in your life ever failed you at your lowest? Drop your thoughts in the comments, and don't forget to subscribe for more real, raw Reddit stories. Because this isn't drama. This is a mother's rage, and it's more than justified. AITA for not planning anything for Father's Day after my husband ruined my first Mother's Day? Let's talk about something people don't bring up enough. The quiet resentment that builds when you're constantly being put last. Because this isn't just a petty tit-for-tat argument about brunch plans or family visits. This is a story about how someone's first Mother's Day, a huge personal milestone, was tossed aside like an afterthought. And the fallout? Yeah, it's deeper than just skipping the zoo. Our writer, a brand new mom, had one simple request. Make me feel seen. That's all. Not a diamond bracelet, not a weekend spa trip, not a $1,000 reservation, just a peaceful morning, breakfast in bed, a trip to the zoo with her baby, dinner at her favorite taco place. A day. One day. One that celebrated the emotional, physical, exhausting, beautiful journey of becoming a mom for the first time. And she made it clear, she planned ahead. She even made sure her mom and Mael had their own celebrations a week prior. Gifts, brunches, flowers. She didn't forget anyone. She went out of her way to be thoughtful. But when it came to her special day, she got mulch. Literally, mulch. The day before Mother's Day, her husband gets a text from his dad. A giant pile of mulch in the yard. Clearly a hey buddy, suit up situation. And instead of saying, sorry dad, it's Mother's Day, I've got plans with my wife and baby, he folds. Just like that. He ditches the breakfast. He leaves her to feed and care for their baby alone like it's any other day. And when she calls hours later, he's still waist deep in yard work like this was just another Saturday. No zoo, no effort, no real apology in time to salvage the day. Let's not sugarcoat this. He prioritized his mom and dad's yard work over his wife's very first Mother's Day. That's not an accident. That's a pattern, a choice. And what makes this sting so much more is that the writer saw it coming. She knew her Mael was manipulative. She knew this was a setup. And still, her husband couldn't set boundaries. That's what makes this feel like more than just a ruined day. It's a slap in the face. Because Ryder wasn't just asking for breakfast and a zoo trip. She was asking for recognition, support, proof that her new role as a mom meant something. And instead, she got ignored. And when she pushed back, Mel doubled down, called her to come hang out while the men finished the mulch, as if her day didn't already get trampled, as if her only role on Mother's Day was to cheer on the boys from the sidelines. Ryder was done. She stayed home, ate pizza, watched Netflix, alone. Fast forward to Father's Day. Now, suddenly, people care about plans. The husband's hoping she'll put in the effort after doing none himself. And when she doesn't, his mom calls her out, sends a passive-aggressive message about hurting the family because they spent the day with her parents instead of his. You know what? Good, because Ryder matched her husband's energy perfectly. She didn't yell, she didn't drag anyone through the mud. She just said, if my day wasn't worth protecting, don't expect me to roll out the red carpet for yours. She told her husband, you spent Mother's Day with your mom, I spent Father's Day with my dad. Balance. And honestly, that's not petty. That's called a boundary. That's a wake-up call, because this isn't about revenge, it's about respect. And if your partner can't stand up to his mom when it matters most, if he can't prioritize his own wife and baby for one damn day, then he needs to sit with that discomfort instead of acting like he's the victim. This was the writer's way of saying, enough. And she's not cold. She didn't block anyone. She's just emotionally checked out from people who've made it crystal clear that her needs come last. So, is Ryder the asshole for not planning anything for Father's Day? Absolutely not. She gave more than enough. She made her needs known. And when she got steamrolled, she simply stepped back and gave her husband a taste of that same energy. This wasn't about the zoo. This was about feeling valued. And for once, she put herself and her child first. And you know what? Good for her. What do you think? Was she right to match his energy, or should she have tried to forgive and move on? Drop a comment, like the video, and don't forget to subscribe for more raw, real, no-filter breakdowns of the internet's most dramatic stories. This one? Whew, that wasn't just a missed zoo trip, that was a missed opportunity to show someone they matter. Update. For not planning anything for Father's Day after my husband ruined my first Mother's Day. Let's just get real for a moment. When a mother spends her first ever Mother's Day feeling invisible in her own home, something is already deeply broken in that relationship. This isn't just about burnt toast or forgotten flowers. This is about emotional labor, emotional neglect, and finally, emotional survival. Now, if you haven't heard the original story, here's the quick version. Ryder planned her first Mother's Day, hoping for a simple, meaningful day with her husband and their baby boy. Breakfast in bed, a trip to the zoo, tacos for dinner. That's it. Modest, thoughtful, sweet. But instead, her husband ditched her to move mulch for his parents because mommy said so. The zoo trip? Canceled. Her husband gone until the window of joy slammed shut, and Mother's Day completely shattered. So Ryder did the only thing that made sense. She matched the energy. When Father's Day rolled around, she did nothing. No planning, no celebrations, just like he had done to her. And she spent the day with her own parents and her baby. Now here's the update, And folks, it's not just an update, it's a reckoning. This week, Ryder and her husband finally sat down. They talked, and not the "I'm sorry, babe" kind of talk. This was the kind of sit down where the truth comes out and the mask finally slips off. Ryder told him everything. That this wasn't just about one ruined Mother's Day. It was years. Years of his mother overstepping, years of feeling like a side character in her own marriage, years of being told, just let it go, while her husband sat there on mute as if his spine was optional. She listed it all. The wedding hijacked by his mom's opinions, the honeymoon hijacked by her daily phone calls. Pregnancy? Not hers anymore. His mom tried to make that about herself too. Bringing home their baby? Guess who tried to take over then too? And every time Ryder was told, it's not a big deal. But it is a big deal, because when you bring a child into the world, you're not just building a family, you're building boundaries. And Ryder was done watching hers get bulldozed. She gave him the truth. This marriage is at the edge. She told him, I don't want a divorce now, but if nothing changes, I'd rather split now while we can still be kind to each other before this turns into hate. And to be clear, this wasn't a threat. It was a boundary. Then, Ryder did something extraordinary. She laid out the plan, a survival manual for their marriage. Not a wish list, but requirements for her to feel safe, respected, and like this relationship is worth staying in. Let me run you through just a few of them. She's done being his mom's secretary. No more cards, gifts, brunches. That's his job now. No more solo time with his parents. If he's not home, they're not getting in. Plans will be mutual. No more surprise drop-ins that hijack their schedule. Holidays are at their house, because their child deserves stability, not being dragged around to make grandma feel important. No more oversharing. Their business is their business. He needs therapy. Not just them as a couple, but him, because the enmeshment with his mom, it's suffocating the marriage. Parenting decisions are final. If grandma can't follow the rules, she loses access. And the biggest one of all, I'm not going to spend my life competing with your mother. And here's the kicker. He's terrified, absolutely freaking out about putting up these boundaries. And honestly, that says it all. He feels caught between a rock and a hard place, but the rock is his marriage, and the hard place is his mother's control. And what's wild is she's not even asking him to choose between, she's asking him to choose to protect the family he helped create, to prioritize his wife and child over the woman who can't stand not being the main character in her grown son's life. And yet, he hesitates. So, is Ryder being unreasonable? Absolutely not. This isn't just about a ruined Mother's Day or a missed trip to the zoo. This is about respect, about a woman who's done being second place in her own marriage, about a mother who refuses to let her child grow up watching her be trampled. And if her husband can't step up, then maybe being a single mom would be less exhausting than being emotionally third-wheeled in your own home. If you felt every beat of that story, if you've ever been sidelined by a spineless partner or smothered by in-laws who think they run your life, drop a comment, hit like, and subscribe for more raw, real, no BS stories. Because sometimes the strongest boundary a woman can set is the one that saves her from losing herself. And Ryder, she's not just drawing the line, she's building a damn wall. AITA for refusing to take classes to help me take care of my autistic stepbrother? Here's a story that digs into the quiet, oval corners of blended families, the parts no one really prepares you for. The part where you're still a kid, but the adults start expecting you to shoulder responsibilities you never signed up for. Our Ryder is a 17-year-old boy, not a grown man, not a parent, just a teenager. A kid trying to live out his final high school years with some sense of identity and agency. But he's caught in a mess he never agreed to, because 3 years ago, his mom married a man who came with 2 children of his own, Jake, who is autistic, and Ella, who is younger. And let's make this clear. Jake being on the spectrum isn't the problem here. The issue is what's been placed on the Ryder's shoulders. The expectations, the pressure, the emotional guilt tripping wrapped up in the name of family bonding. Now imagine this. You're a teenager, still dealing with your own stuff, trying to figure out who the hell you are in a home that's no longer really yours. And suddenly you're being dragged to classes. Not invited, not asked, dragged. Classes about autism care. Classes that aren't just informational, they're prepping you. Not as a brother, not as a family member, but as a caregiver, a babysitter, a backup adult. And this all started before the stepfamily even moved in. The deal was clear: take these classes, pass them, or this new merged family doesn't happen. So what happens when a kid says no? The grown-ups do it anyway. Because let's be honest, this decision was made a long time ago. The writer's choice was never going to matter. Fast forward to now. The regular babysitter is gone, and suddenly the writer isn't just the teen in the house, he's the next option on speed dial. And when he refuses, the guilt machine kicks in. You're being an ass to Jake. Jake deserves better. Just take the class, it's not even about babysitting anymore. But it is, and the writer knows it. He knows the moment he says yes to this class, he's back in the position of being expected to step up, to be available, to put his own life on pause so someone else's home can run more smoothly. That's not fair. That's not his role. He's a kid. And yet somehow everyone's treating him like he's the one letting the family down. Let's not gloss over how heavy the situation really is. This isn't just about a couple of weekend classes. It's about years of emotional push and pull. About a home that changed under the writer's feet. About a teenager who's been asked to bend and stretch and fold himself into a new dynamic, one that he didn't choose and doesn't feel seen in. And when he finally draws a boundary, offers to move out rather than be guilted into something he doesn't want to do. What does his mom say? No, I'm not pushing you away. But isn't she? Because when you repeatedly ask your child to take on emotional labor for your new family and then make them feel bad when they decline, you are pushing them, but emotionally, slowly, inch by inch. The writer's not saying he hates his stepbrother. He's not mocking autism. He's not being cruel. What he's saying loud and clear is, I'm already doing a lot. I've already changed so much. Can you please just let me have this one thing that's mine to choose? And honestly, he's right to ask that. You can't force connection. You can't mandate care. You can't shove responsibility onto someone and call it love just because it's coming from family. At the end of the day, the writer's job isn't to be Jake's therapist or support worker. It's to finish being a teenager, to get through high school, to dream about his own future. And if he chooses on his own terms to step into a bigger role later on, that's great. But right now, he's still a kid, and that should matter. So is the writer the asshole for refusing? Absolutely not. He's just drawing a line in a world where no one else seems to recognize that he has a right to. Let's stop acting like older siblings owe us the emotional labor of raising the next generation. Let's stop pretending that saying no to extra responsibility is some act of selfishness, because sometimes choosing yourself is the only way to stay whole. What do you think? Should the writer be expected to help raise his stepbrother? Or should parents stop guilt-tripping their teens into unpaid caregiving roles? Drop your thoughts in the comments and hit that like and subscribe if you want more raw, unfiltered stories like this. Stories that don't sugarcoat what family dynamics can really look like behind closed doors. AITA for hiding my savings from my dad and his wife. There's a special kind of betrayal that cuts deeper than any breakup, any lie, any friendship gone sour. It's when family chooses someone else over you, every single time. Ryder, a 22-year-old woman, just got kicked out of her home, not by some distant landlord or due to rent issues, not even by her own father. No, she was kicked out by his wife, a woman who's never once tried to be a mother to her. And her crime? She had the audacity to save her own money. Let that sink in. She worked full-time, paid for her own food, her clothes, her gas, hell, probably even her own toothpaste. She wasn't sponging off anyone. She wasn't freeloading. She was surviving, quietly, independently. But that wasn't enough, because her father's wife, she's drowning in a gambling addiction. Not poker at a table, not sports betting. We're talking full-blown online slot machine hell, where she sits for hours clicking spin like it's going to magically fix her life. It never does. And instead of owning that, instead of confronting her own behavior, she turned to Ryder and said, "You don't help us, you don't live here." Help them how? By handing over her paycheck so it could be flushed down a virtual toilet, by financing a grown woman's addiction while she eats dry noodles and prays the lights don't get cut off. But what's worse than the chaos of the stepmom is the silence of the dad. This isn't a man standing between his daughter and the fire. This is a man staring at the smoke and pretending it's not there. Don't start something, he told her, as if she was the one causing problems, as if she hadn't already been doing everything she could just to avoid the explosions. So Ryder did the one thing a desperate person does when survival is the only goal left. She saved money in secret, not to hurt anyone, not to be greedy, just to escape. Quietly, with her dignity intact. But secrets don't stay hidden forever, especially when you're living with someone who thinks snooping is justified by desperation. One missed receipt in a bag, one ATM slip, and everything unraveled. Suddenly, she was the enemy. The selfish one. The hoarder. The ungrateful brat. You've been eating under my roof. Really? Eating what? The microwave ramen she bought herself? The silence of a house that doesn't feel like home? She was given an ultimatum, hand over her savings or get out. So she got out. Now she's on a friend's couch, wondering if she did the right thing, questioning herself, carrying guilt that shouldn't be hers to carry. Because here's the brutal truth. Ryder isn't the villain, she's the survivor. She tried to be generous, she covered a bill, she offered to help with groceries. She confronted her father like any daughter would when she sees someone she loves being swallowed whole by someone else's addiction. But she was met with silence, dismissal, ultimatums, and now even in her escape, she wonders, should I have just handed over my savings? Should I have told my dad more before leaving? Am I being selfish? Let's be clear, hiding savings from someone who's actively exploiting you is not selfish, it's self-defense. She didn't leave them. They pushed her out. They chose gambling over their daughter's safety, their daughter's trust, their daughter's future. So, is Ryder the asshole for hiding her savings? No, not even close. She's the only person in that house who saw the storm coming and had the sense to build a lifeboat. And while her father watches the waves crash from inside that house of cards, she's finally rowing toward dry land. If that one hit you hard, if you've ever felt like the black sheep for choosing your sanity over someone else's dysfunction, drop a comment, like the video, and subscribe. Because family doesn't mean sacrificing yourself just to keep their broken ship from sinking. Sometimes, walking away isn't cruel. It's survival. AITA for shrugging when my dad's wife asked me what she was supposed to do if I only ever see her as my dad's wife and not as my parent. Sometimes the hardest truth to swallow is that not everything broken can be fixed, and not every role is yours to claim, even if you want it really badly. This is the story of a young man, 17 years old, who's been walking through life with his dad at his side, and only his dad. No motherly hugs, no moms picking me up from practice, no bedtime stories from anyone but dad. Ryder's mom, gone. Not dead, just absent. She made that choice. She walked away from the job, the title, the connection, and after enough years of being let down, Ryder stopped caring. He adjusted, built a version of normal where there was one parent, one person who showed up, and honestly, it was enough. Then came Colette, dad's girlfriend, then his wife, but never ever Ryder's mother. And here's where things get murky, because when Colette entered their lives 3 years ago, it wasn't fireworks and fairy tales, it was neutral ground. Ryder was polite, respectful, civil, but he never once invited her to cross that invisible line between dad's wife and my parent. And why should he? This wasn't a child yearning for motherly affection. This wasn't some open wound waiting to be bandaged. This was a teenager with boundaries. Boundaries he made clear from day one. And you know what? To his credit, dad backed him up. He didn't force the issue, didn't try to script some perfect blended family fantasy. He respected the boundary his son laid down. Colette? Not so much. She tiptoed at first, subtle nudges. Maybe trying to insert herself into decisions. Maybe gently laying claim to titles that didn't belong to her. But it was manageable, until it wasn't. The tipping point came when Ryder won an award at school, and let's be clear, this was his moment. He earned that recognition. And when the school wanted photos with the kids and their parents, It was him and Dad. No debate, no confusion. But Colette, she was upset, not just disappointed, hurt. Because in her mind, 2 years of marriage should have earned her a seat at the table, a title, a place in that photo. And then came the question, what am I supposed to do if you only ever see me as your dad's wife and not as your parent? Now pause for a second. That's a heavy question, but it's not his burden to carry. Ryder didn't scream, didn't insult her, didn't even get emotional. He shrugged. That's it, a shrug. Not disrespectful, just truthful. Because what was he supposed to say? Sorry, but I didn't sign up for another parent. You're not my mom and you never will be. That's not my responsibility to fix. No, he shrugged because it was her question, her issue, her reality to deal with. But that shrug hit hard. Too hard for Colette, apparently. She snapped, called it disrespectful, demanded more emotion, more guilt, more something. But let's flip this for a second. Shra, why should Ryder carry the emotional labor of comforting a grown adult who's upset that a teenager won't hand over a title he never offered? He never disrespected her, never treated her poorly, but he also never promised anything more than what he gave. And now suddenly, he's the villain because he didn't pretend, because he didn't fake affection to make her feel better? Let's be brutally honest here. A wedding ring doesn't come with automatic motherhood access. Being someone's step, anything doesn't mean you get to rewrite their history. You don't get to undo years of absence, trauma, and abandonment just because you want a tighter bond. So, is Ryder the asshole for shrugging at Colette's question? Not even close. What he did was kind. What he didn't do was lie. And that matters. Sometimes people need to hear the truth, even if it's in silence, even if it's in a shrug. What do you think? Should Colette have earned more consideration, or is this exactly the kind of boundary more teens should be allowed to keep? If this one got you thinking, go ahead and drop a comment, like, and hit that subscribe button for more unfiltered deep dives into family dynamics, emotional truths, and Reddit's realest moments. Because sometimes not saying anything at all says everything. AITA for telling my husband if he divorces me because of my acne and menopause, I will tell our adult children his reasons. Let's talk about menopause for a second. Not the sanitized, watered-down version people like to toss around. I mean the real experience, the sleepless nights, the relentless mood swings, the hot flashes, the aching joints, and the kind of hormonal chaos that makes you feel like a stranger in your own body. It's not just a phase, it's a storm, a biological betrayal. And for a lot of women, it's not a gentle fade, it's a violent rewrite of everything they've known about themselves. And in the eye of that storm, that's where we find the Ryder, a 51-year-old woman navigating the brutal, unfiltered reality of menopause. Her body is changing. Her skin is inflamed with stubborn, painful acne, the kind that doesn't go away. No matter how expensive the cream or how clean the diet, she's gaining weight not from laziness, but because her hormones are wreaking havoc, slowing her metabolism to a crawl. And through all this, she's trying. She's fighting every day to feel like herself again, but her body isn't cooperating. And her husband, the man who once promised for better or worse, he's not fighting with her. He's standing across from her, arms folded, judging. During a fight, one of those ugly, truth-spilling fights, he doesn't comfort her. He doesn't say, we'll get through this. No, he says, I'm not attracted to you anymore. That was the moment everything cracked. Now pause here. Imagine putting your whole self, your youth, your body, your energy into building a family, a home, a life. Imagine being there for him through his rough patches, the stressful job changes, the aging, the back pain, the thinning hair, the irritability. Imagine loving him through it all. And now, when your body starts changing against your will, he's repulsed. That's not just painful, that's humiliating. That's a betrayal of the deepest kind, because it's not about vanity. It's about being abandoned while you're already battling your own reflection. So Ryder tells him with raw honesty, if you divorce me because of this, I'm telling our kids exactly why. She's not threatening to ruin his life. She's not lying. She's simply telling him, if you walk away because I aged, like we all do, then you should own that. And now suddenly she's the cruel one. He calls her cruel for daring to tell the truth, for saying out loud the one thing men like this hope to avoid: accountability. But let's be clear, Ryder isn't cruel. She's been through hell and back in her own skin. She's grieving the loss of the body she once recognized, the face that used to glow without effort. And now, on top of that, she's supposed to coddle the ego of a man who decided that love stops at the first wrinkle? Nah. If he wants to leave because she doesn't look like she did at 30, let the kids know that's who their father really is. Because that's not just a marriage issue, that's a legacy issue. That's the kind of message that teaches their daughters: you are disposable when your skin breaks out and your waist expands. That tells their sons, you're allowed to walk away when your wife's body changes, just like yours did. And Ryder, she's not trying to poison her kids against their dad. She's trying to make sure they know the truth if everything falls apart. Because if someone walks out on a 30-year marriage because of acne and menopause, then they don't get to hide behind vague excuses and clean breakups. They need to own it. Let's talk about what marriage is supposed to be. It's not just about passion and date nights. It's not about perfectly toned bodies or flawless skin. It's about facing life together, even when that life hands you menopause, hair loss, wrinkles, depression, insomnia, and every other aging curveball. Ryder didn't get a choice. Her body changed. It betrayed her. And her husband, instead of being her safe space, he became another battlefield. So is she the asshole for being honest about what would happen if he left her? Absolutely not. She's holding up a mirror, and he doesn't like what he sees. If you walk away because your wife no longer looks like the fantasy in your head, then be ready for the people you raised together to know the truth. Because if you're going to abandon the woman who stood beside you through everything, then at least have the guts to stand beside the reason why. Ryder, you're not the problem. You're the one still standing, still trying, still loving, even when your own body won't cooperate. And if he can't see the strength and beauty in that, then let him go. But make damn sure the world knows why. If you felt that, if this story hits you deep, like, comment, and subscribe. And to every woman out there fighting to feel seen during menopause, you are not invisible. You're a warrior. Don't let anyone make you feel like less. Am I the asshole for saying good job after my kid defended her by punching him? Let's talk about being a parent. Not just feeding, clothing, and loving your child, but fighting like hell to protect them when the world looks the other way. Because that's exactly what the writer, a mother, has been doing. And make no mistake, this isn't some exaggerated high school drama. This is real life, real harassment, real threats, and a school system that's been failing a 13-year-old girl over and over again. The writer's daughter has been relentlessly bullied. Not just name-calling, not just snide little jabs in the hallway. We're talking physical aggression. This boy, protected by his ties to the school district, has shoved her, threatened her, and walked away with slap-on-the-wrist consequences. Suspended? Sure. But it clearly hasn't stopped him, and when someone is given do-over after do-over for hurting someone else, what you're teaching isn't discipline. You're teaching that power protects you. And let's pause here for a second. The audacity of this bully's parents, suggesting that these two might end up together someday because of how they argue, that's not just tone deaf. That's dangerous. That's the kind of mindset that normalizes abuse, wraps it up in some fantasy of young love, and hands it to a child like it's a compliment. No, just no. Now fast forward to summer. Ryder's daughter is trying to get a break from it all to dive into something she's passionate about: STEM camp, a space where she should feel safe, free, curious. But no, even there he shows up. A break when a teacher, whose literal job is to supervise, is glued to his phone. This same boy shoves her again, threatens to knock her out. And this time, she didn't back down. She turned around and punched him in the stomach. One shot. Not an assault. Not a fight. A reaction. A boundary finally enforced by a girl who's been pushed too far. And what did the writer, her mom, say? She didn't scold. She didn't panic. She didn't punish. She said, "Good job defending yourself." And that right there is what set the family chat on fire. Not the bullying, not the school's negligence. not the teacher scrolling while kids were being physically threatened. No. The moment a mother affirmed her daughter's right to self-defense, suddenly everyone became a parenting expert. The writer's brother and his wife launched in, saying she was encouraging violence, teaching her daughter to punch when her feelings are hurt, as if this wasn't about safety, as if the girl just got mad and took a swing in a moment of drama. That is not what happened. The writer made one thing clear. Her daughter was scared. She was threatened. She acted in defense when no adult stepped in, when the system once again sat on its hands. And let's be real, isn't that what we hope our kids can do when no one else is around? Stand up, protect themselves, not just physically, but emotionally too? To say enough, you don't get to hurt me anymore. The writer didn't tell her daughter to throw the first punch. She didn't encourage escalation. She gave her daughter permission to survive. And she offered love and support after the fact, even taking time off work to help her decompress from the experience. Now, here's the part that hurts the most. After all this, after years of failed support from schools, weak consequences for the bully, tone-deaf enabling parents, and watching her child come home in tears, the writer is sitting here wondering if she's a bad mom. Because enough people around her gaslit her into questioning her instincts. But let's make it clear, she is not the asshole. She is a mom who has watched the world fail her child, again and again. And when that child finally stood her ground, all the writer did was let her know, you're not alone, that she is not bad for fighting back, that being afraid doesn't make her weak, that choosing herself in that moment was not wrong. Because if a child is told that defending themselves is wrong, what are we asking them to become? Passive? Helpless? Easy targets? That's not strength, that's conditioning. The writer is doing what countless parents have to do in silence, undo years of learned helplessness. Rebuild their child's sense of safety when the adults in charge keep letting them down. So no, saying good job to her daughter wasn't about glorifying violence. It was a lifeline. A message that said, I see you, I believe you, and I'm proud you didn't let fear win. So to everyone listening, what would you do if it was your kid? Would you want them to stand there and wait for help that may never come? Or would you want them to fight, not out of rage, but out of survival? Because that girl didn't start the war, but she damn sure ended one battle. And that's something worth standing behind. If you've ever had to fight to protect your kid from a system that wouldn't, drop a comment. Was the writer right to affirm her daughter's defense? Should the bully's family be held more accountable? And most of all, where do you draw the line between discipline and self-preservation? Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe for more raw, real stories just like this one, because sometimes parenting means standing between your child and the world that refuses to protect them. AITA for calling my boyfriend a weirdo when he said a white woman wears hoop earrings to attract black men. All right, buckle in, because this isn't just about earrings or compliments or misunderstandings. This is about the moment when someone you thought knew you, really knew you, says something so bizarre, so tone-deaf, so out of pocket, you're left standing there wondering if you've actually been dating a walking Reddit thread this entire time. Our writer is a 27-year-old woman. She's at the gym, minding her own business, getting her workout in, sweating it out like anyone would, probably in her zone, earbuds in, pushing through reps, and her boyfriend, 25, swings by to pick her up. Standard stuff. Nothing weird about that, until he opens his mouth. Now you'd think, maybe he'd point out something practical, right? Like, hey, maybe it's not safe to wear earrings during your workout. What if they get caught on something? Something normal, logical, loving. But nah, that's not what this man said. He looked at her silver hoop earrings, and dead serious, he says, a white woman wears hoop earrings to attract black men. Excuse me? What the actual hell? Let's just pause for a second and unpack that. You're out here existing, being yourself, doing absolutely nothing that warrants racial fetishizing commentary, and your own boyfriend hits you with that, a statement that somehow manages to be weirdly racialized, objectifying, borderline racist, and just completely unnecessary all at once. Our writer, she doesn't stay quiet. She calls it out. straight up tells him, "You're a weirdo." And honestly, that's putting it lightly. Because what else do you even say in that moment? What else can you say when someone turns a piece of your fashion, a personal style choice, into some creepy, racially charged fantasy that you never signed up for? But it doesn't stop there. Oh no. This man doubles down. He tries to claim it was a compliment, as if pointing out racial stereotypes and implying some secret, seductive coding is somehow flattering. And then, just when you think the cringe hit max level, he goes on to say, "A white woman with a big ass attracts black men." At this point, we're not even in normal weird boyfriend territory anymore. We're somewhere between TikTok conspiracy theory and late night barbershop nonsense. And you can feel the shift, right? This isn't just a misunderstanding. It's not a slip of the tongue. It's a pattern of thought, a glimpse into how this man actually views people. And the worst part, he's saying all this to the woman he's dating. Like she's supposed to be flattered by being reduced to a walking stereotype. Let's be real here. This wasn't a joke. It wasn't funny. It wasn't edgy. It was just gross, tone deaf, objectifying, and so deeply out of line that the writer didn't even know what to make of it. She's confused, hurt, and left questioning whether she's the one overreacting because he's now making her feel like she misunderstood the compliment. But here's the truth. She didn't misunderstand anything. What happened here is a moment of clarity. A moment where the mask slipped a little and the writer saw a part of her boyfriend's mindset that she hadn't seen before. A part that reduces women to their body parts, that racializes attraction in the most stereotypical, uncomfortable way, and then tries to gaslight her into believing it was praise. And now the writer is left wondering, am I the asshole? For calling him out, for saying the truth out loud. Let me answer that clearly. No, you are not the asshole, not even close. You didn't overreact, you didn't mishear. You called it exactly what it was, weird, inappropriate, and more than a little unsettling, because no one should have to sit there and listen to their own boyfriend categorize them like some sort of fetish trope based on their earrings. This isn't just about earrings. It's about dignity. It's about respect. It's about not being objectified in your own relationship. So what now? Well, the writer's standing at a crossroads. She's seen something in her partner that doesn't sit right. And if this is how he talks when he's trying to compliment her, imagine the things he says when he's not trying to be nice. This isn't just a red flag. It's a whole parade. What would you have said if your partner made a comment like this? Let me know in the comments. Was the writer right to call it out? And if you're loving these raw, unfiltered breakdowns, make sure you subscribe, like, and share, because we're telling stories that hit deep, stir the pot, and pull no punches. AITA for distancing myself from my triplet sisters and family after years of feeling left out anyway? This isn't just about siblings. This is about growing up watching your own family treat you like the footnote in your own damn story. Our writer is a triplet, technically. She's 1/3 of a set, born alongside two sisters who just happen to be identical twins. But if you ask her family, you'd never know she was part of the trio, because from the jump, it was always the twins and their sister. Her sisters had matching names, matching outfits, matching hairstyles. Meanwhile, writer, she got her own name, her own look, her own spot outside the circle. That might sound cute to some people, individuality and all that, but let's not kid ourselves. This wasn't about celebrating differences. It was exclusion wrapped in a pastel bow. Photos, always the twins together, matching dresses cheek to cheek. Then there'd be another one. Ryder standing off to the side like the cousin who happened to be there. Even as toddlers, she wasn't in the frame with them. Not really. And when she spoke up, you're being silly. You're just as loved. The classic gaslight cocktail served up by parents who didn't want to hear it. But you can't brush off a childhood of being made to feel like the extra wheel on your own damn tricycle. Even at school, kids picked up on it. Her sisters would call each other twin with a sparkle in their voice, like it was a badge of honor. But to her, just our sister. Their friends, they caught on too. One of them even joked that Ryder wasn't really part of the set. Imagine being 13 and having some middle school brat spell out what your family has been subtly saying for years. And you know what's even worse? When she did try to bring it up seriously, tried to be honest about her hurt, they laughed. Again, called her sensitive, dismissed her pain like it was some hormonal outburst. Her sisters literally told her to let it go. Let what go exactly? Being ignored? Being dragged along to events like a backup dancer? Being the plus one in her own family dynamic? But here's the plot twist. She stopped chasing them. College gave her a chance to breathe, to build real friendships, the kind where people text you because they want to, not because they remembered last minute you exist. She started finding herself outside of the shadow of the twin brand, and for the first time, she chose herself. She skipped Christmas at home. She's spending summer with a college friend instead of falling back into the default role of being the forgotten sister. And only then, only when her silence became too loud to ignore, did her family reach out. Suddenly it's, why haven't you texted? Why didn't you come home? Triplets need to stick together. Oh, now it's triplets again. Where was that energy when she was 10 and crying in the backseat because her sisters didn't want to include her in the twin outfits? Where was it at prom when her sisters coordinated dresses and Ryder just didn't match? Where was it when she was trying to explain that being the odd one out in your own trio doesn't feel special, it feels painful? Let's be real, they didn't notice her absence until it was convenient to be upset by it. And now they're spamming her phone with messages calling her childish. Funny how the people who never showed up for you suddenly care when you stop showing up for them. So, is Ryder the asshole for finally walking away from a dynamic that made her feel invisible? Absolutely not. She gave them years to recognize her, include her, see her. They didn't. So now she's building something better, something real. Sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is stop begging people to see your worth and just start living like you know it. What do you think? Did Ryder finally make the right call, or should she have tried to rebuild that triplet bond? Tap that like button if this one hit a nerve. And don't forget to subscribe for more unfiltered emotional deep dives into Reddit's most personal stories. Because sometimes, choosing P looks a lot like choosing distance. Am I the asshole for leaving a family barbecue when asked to help in the garden? So imagine this. It's a warm, sunny day. You've been invited to what's supposed to be a chill family barbecue. Nothing fancy, just sunshine, drinks, maybe a beer or two, good food, good vibes, a chance to unwind. That's exactly what the writer thought was in store when they accepted the invitation from their ex-wife's stepfather to attend a family barbecue. Not a work day, not a landscaping project, a barbecue. You know, grilled sausages, paper plates, laughs around the patio, that kind of thing. The writer didn't show up empty-handed either. They brought homemade pasta salad, homemade potato salad, and barbecue sausages. Not just the frozen grocery store kind. They prepared, took time, showed up ready to be part of the day, not just to eat but to contribute, and they came dressed for it too. Summer clothes, clean, casual, nothing that screams yard duty or construction crew. Their girlfriend came along as well, dressed for a summer afternoon. Not an unannounced volunteer landscaping shift, but the moment they arrived, that barbecue vibe, gone, non-existent, replaced by demands. They were told point blank that before anyone got to enjoy food or drinks, they were expected to help out, and not just some light setup. No, they were told to clean dog mess off the patio, and not from their own dogs, mind you. Their dogs were at home. These were someone else's. Then, after scooping up whatever mystery landmines were out there, they were supposed to start clearing a section of the garden to prep for a greenhouse installation. Next week. Let's break that down. This wasn't a barbecue. This was a bait-and-switch chore trap dressed up with the word family on the invitation. So the writer pushed back, calmly, politely. They explained they weren't dressed for yard work, didn't expect it, and had shown up with food expecting socializing and relaxation. Simple as that. And immediately, instantly, the mood shifted. Suddenly, they weren't welcome. The air changed, faces turned cold. That passive-aggressive energy, thick enough to chew through. Nobody said, okay, no worries. Nobody said, thanks for the food, maybe just hang out then. Instead, the message was clear. If you're not going to sweat, you're not invited to sit. So the writer and their girlfriend did what any self-respecting person should do in that moment. They left. They found a nice little country pub, had dinner, enjoyed the evening the way it should have gone. But it didn't end there. Because now, the writer's getting slammed online by the kids of the adults at that so-called barbecue, mocked, called lazy, accused of being scared of hard work. Hard work? Let's talk about that. Hard work is preparing food ahead of time, making sure you're contributing to a gathering. Hard work is showing up civilly to your ex-wife's stepfather's event and keeping things mature for the sake of peace. Hard work is walking away from petty drama instead of creating more of it. What this wasn't hard work. This was weaponized obligation, a setup. They used the word barbecue to lure people in and mask it as some kind of social gathering, only to throw in free labor as the unspoken entry fee. So now the writer is being asked, are they the asshole for walking away? And here's the thing, they didn't explode, didn't cuss anyone out, didn't make a scene. They simply said no, and when they weren't welcome without a shovel in their hand, they bounced. That's not being an asshole. That's setting a boundary. That's refusing to be manipulated under the guise of family obligation. Because family doesn't rope you into unpaid yard work without warning. Family doesn't guilt trip you with social media shade because you wore summer clothes to a literal barbecue. And family sure as hell doesn't expect you to scrape up dog crap just to earn a plate of ribs. So no, the writer is not the asshole. They were gaslit into thinking this was a friendly get-together. And when they didn't play along with the game, they became the villain. But here's the truth. If someone needs you to work before you're welcome, that's not family. That's exploitation wrapped in potato salad. What do you think? Was the writer right to leave? Or should they have picked up a shovel in their best summer outfit? Drop your thoughts in the comments. Don't forget to subscribe for more brutally real Reddit drama. And next time someone invites you to a family barbecue, maybe ask if it comes with a rake. Because if your RSVP turns into unpaid labor, it's not a barbecue, it's a con job with extra coleslaw. Am I the asshole for masturbating after my husband turned me down for sex? So let's set the scene. It's late, the house is quiet. Another night has passed, another moment of intimacy missed, and the writer, she's left sitting with frustration, confusion, and honestly, a kind of ache that runs deeper than just physical. This story isn't just about sex, it's about years of trying, struggling, enduring. A relationship tested by death, addiction, homelessness, mental health battles, real things. Not just minor hiccups or drama, but heavy, life-altering experiences that shake the foundation of everything. The writer and her husband have walked through hell together, and when that happens, sometimes intimacy gets lost in the chaos. Desire takes a back seat. Connection gets blurry, and you end up lying beside someone you love, feeling more alone than ever. Now let's talk about that moment, because it's real. The writer, after being turned down again and again, finds herself needing to release some of that built-up frustration, not just sexual, but emotional. The rejection stings. The silence is loud. And so she does what a lot of people do when they feel alone but still have needs. She takes care of it herself. On the couch, in the dark, quiet. And that's when it happens. He walks in, and everything explodes. Not in a sexy movie scene kind of way. No. He gets pissed. Not sad, not apologetic, not even confused, just angry. Suddenly, she is the one being accused. He says if she really wanted sex, she should have made herself more clear. More clear than trying 5 separate times over 3 months? Let's break this down. This man tells her she doesn't initiate enough, so she does. She puts herself out there. That terrifying, vulnerable act of reaching across a gap that's grown too wide and gets turned down repeatedly. And each no slices a little deeper. Now she's trying to survive in a relationship where she's damned if she does and damned if she doesn't. Initiate and get rejected? She's not trying hard enough. Take care of herself privately? She's disrespectful, ungrateful, crossing some invisible line. And that line, let's talk about it. Because nowhere in this post did the writer cheat, lie, disrespect, or humiliate her husband. She was honest. She's hurt, yes. She's lonely, yes. But she stayed faithful, emotionally and physically. She didn't go find someone else. She didn't vent online in a bitter, petty way. She asked, "Am I the asshole?" with humility, not malice. And here's the painful irony. He's the one who feels rejected. The same man who said he wanted more intimacy is now angry that she tried. He sees her self-pleasure as some kind of betrayal, when in truth, it was her way of holding on to a sliver of autonomy, of reminding herself that she's still alive, still worthy of affection, of touch, even if it's her own. Let's not sugarcoat it. This situation is messy. It's the aftermath of years of trauma, unspoken pain, ego, fear, and miscommunication. And the real issue? It's not masturbation. It's not the couch. It's not even the rejection. It's that somewhere along the way, these two people who have clearly loved and endured so much stopped really seeing each other, stopped talking openly, stopped touching with intention, stopped making room for each other's needs without defensiveness. And now here they are, she's ashamed, he's angry, and the silence between them is louder than ever. So is the writer the asshole? Absolutely not. She's human. She's hurt. She's trying to reconnect in the only ways she knows how after being emotionally shut out. She gave grace again and again. And after being turned away, she found a quiet way to care for herself, and she's now being punished for it. If anything, what's missing here isn't moral clarity, it's emotional maturity on his part. A willingness to say, "Hey, I saw what happened. Let's talk about this. Why did you feel the need to do that? What do you need from me?" But instead, he chose anger over understanding, ego over empathy. So to the writer, if you're listening, you're not the asshole. You're someone who deserves touch, love, and real connection. You're someone trying to navigate the minefield of marriage after trauma. And most of all, you deserve a partner who listens without needing to be the center of every conversation. Drop your thoughts in the comments. Is the writer right to feel frustrated? Is the husband projecting his guilt onto her? And where's the line between intimacy and independence when communication falls apart? Hit that subscribe for more brutally honest Reddit stories like this one. Because sometimes the real heartbreak isn't in the big betrayals, it's in all the quiet, invisible ways two people start drifting apart. Am I the asshole for tipping 83? So the writer and his wife go out for dinner, just a regular night out, nothing extravagant, just two people trying to enjoy a quiet meal and disconnect from life for a bit. The food comes, they eat, they laugh, all good. Then the check drops. It's $91.17. The writer hands the waitress his card, expecting the usual back and forth. But what happens next? It's not usual. It's straight up icy. The waitress storms back over, slaps the card onto the table like it's a personal offense, and hits them with one cold word: declined. No explanation, no warmth, no grace. Just that word, with a tone that could cut glass. And listen, writer's not some freeloader. He calmly pulls out another card. While he's putting the declined one away, she just stands there, looming. No movement, no take your time, no, I'll be right back. Just a stare. So writer asks, "You okay?" And then it escalates. She goes, "If I go back and try to run this, are you still going to be sitting here when I get back?" Wait, what? That's not cautious. That's not concerned. That's flat out accusing him of planning to dine and dash, in front of his wife, no less. That's humiliating. He calls her out. "Do you think that's an appropriate tone to use with a customer?" And her response, "You're only a customer if you pay." At that point, writer's done. He asks for the manager. His wife, trying to keep the peace, suggests maybe the waitress has been burned before, scammers, stolen cards, you name it. But let's be real, being cautious doesn't give you a pass to be rude. There's a difference between being careful and being condescending. Eventually, the waitress comes back with the second card and the receipt. She mutters, "This one worked, I'm sorry." He thanks her and signs the slip. Now here's where the storm really brews. He tips 83 cents, just enough to round the total up to $92. And that move? Oh, it set her off. She stares him down and goes, "You're really not going to tip me?" He answers, blunt as ever, "No, you were rude to me." Then she drops a line that hits hard. "I have to tip out the bartender and the busboy. I just paid money to serve you." Writer doesn't budge. Well, in the future, you shouldn't be so rude. Boom. That's it. Mic drop. Now his wife thinks he was an asshole. Says it was probably an honest misunderstanding, and she's got a point. Maybe it was. Maybe the waitress was having a terrible night. Maybe she's been burned by scammers so many times she just defaulted to defense mode. But here's the thing. Ryder wasn't the one who brought the attitude to the table. He didn't deserve to be treated like a criminal because his card got flagged. He even says he would have tipped $28.83, a generous 30%, if she hadn't been rude. But he wasn't about to reward bad service with good money. And let's be real, a tip is for service, not for insults. Also, the declined card, it wasn't even his fault. Turns out his bank flagged it over a tiny $1 pending charge. Fraud protection. He called and sorted it. No harm, no scam, just tech doing what it does. So now, the real question. Am I the asshole for tipping 83 cents after being treated like a scammer, insulted, and humiliated in front of my wife? Some people would say yes, that you should always tip, that service workers hustle and struggle and one bad moment doesn't justify stiffing them. But others, they'd say no, that you don't tip someone for treating you like garbage, that respect goes both ways, and service with an attitude deserves a tip to match. What do you think? Drop it in the comments. And if you're into real stories like this, raw, messy, no filter, hit that subscribe button, like the video, and share your own wild experiences down below. This one, it's gonna start some fire. Am I the asshole for not skipping a work trip because my husband is recovering from a hair transplant? All right, picture this. The writer is a full-time professional, mother of 2 young kids, juggling life like a circus act, emails, meetings, diapers, school runs, the whole chaotic routine. She's been grinding away in a high-stress corporate role, and finally she's got a work retreat coming up. 2 days. Just 2 days. Something that's not just getaway fluff. This is 6 months in the making. It's a planning retreat, career exposure, FaceTime with leadership, a rare opportunity. But now she's being guilt-tripped into canceling it because her husband flew overseas for a hair transplant. Yeah, a hair transplant. We're not talking about emergency surgery or a major medical procedure or anything life-threatening. We're talking vanity surgery that he chose to schedule without coordinating with his wife. No planning, no heads up, just vibes and impulse. He's 3 days post-op. His scalp is sore, he's bald. Understandable discomfort. But suddenly this becomes her problem. He fires off a text demanding she stay home. Not a conversation, not a compromise. A demand. Put me first. If you do this to me, I'll be beyond mad. If you go, I won't take the kids to school. What kind of grown man uses his own children as pawns in a guilt trip? That's not vulnerability. That's manipulation. Emotional blackmail. Straight up. And here's what makes it worse. He knew. He knew about the trip for 6 months. This wasn't sprung on him. The writer didn't blindside anyone. She did everything right. And he still chose to go through with the transplant knowing the timing. And now suddenly it's her responsibility to cancel, to stay home because he's self-conscious about being seen without hair? Come on. And let's talk about that. I don't want to be seen so close to surgery. That's the real issue here. Not pain, not recovery, image. And that's when he crosses a line. He tells her, "Your trip is stupid." A trip that could mean long-term opportunities, visibility, better pay, more support for their whole family. He reduces it to stupid. And for what? So he can hide in the house with a hoodie on for a few more days while throwing a tantrum? Let's not forget, this woman supports her entire family. She earns more. She holds down a demanding job. She still manages her share of parenting. She's not walking away from a family emergency. She's not abandoning anyone. This man, who otherwise does help with the kids when she travels about 6 to 8 times a year, has now decided that this time she needs to stay home because he's embarrassed. And the kicker? They live in New York. People walk their kids to school. No car needed, no physical labor. Just throw on a hat, man. You're not auditioning for America's Next Top Model. You're doing a school drop-off. Ryder's not saying she doesn't care. She's not saying his insecurity doesn't matter. She's saying this isn't the time. Not when she's been responsible, communicative, and planning this for half a year. So she made a choice. She made a choice. She left. She went on that trip, And honestly, good for her. Because how many times are women expected to drop everything for someone else's crisis, especially when the crisis is manufactured? This wasn't selfish. This wasn't cold. This was survival. This was standing her ground. After years of bending, of giving, of putting everyone else first, she finally drew a line. So now she asks, am I the asshole for not skipping my work trip just because my husband's recovering from a self-scheduled cosmetic procedure? No, writer, you're not the asshole. But he chose image over partnership, control over respect, and that says a whole lot more than a sore scalp ever could. Let's talk about it. Who's really being selfish here? Drop your thoughts in the comments. Have you ever been guilt-tripped into giving something up for someone else's impulsive choices? If this story got you heated, hit that like button. And don't forget to subscribe for more raw, real, no BS Reddit stories every day. This one hits home for a lot of people. Am I the asshole for letting my ex-BF dump me when he thought I had massive debt? Let's start with this. The writer isn't careless, broke, or financially reckless. She's actually the exact opposite. We're talking about someone who's so financially disciplined that she keeps an entire Excel workbook, not just to track expenses, but to manage every single aspect of her personal finances. This spreadsheet, it's not just numbers, it's her peace of mind. It's her therapy. The writer built this system to stop the panic attacks that used to haunt her about missed bills. This isn't some control freak obsession. This is about survival, emotional regulation, safety. She's fought tooth and nail to get to a point where she can breathe. Every month, she saves half her income. Half. IRA, HSA, travel, taxes, emergency fund. She budgets, plans, and tracks everything down to the last detail. She even gives herself a modest weekly allowance, just $150 to spend on whatever brings her joy. Dates, movies, a night out with friends, that's her fun money. And as for debt, her only debt is a $500 vet bill and a small car loan that's almost paid off. That's it. And she could clear those right now if she wanted to. But she keeps that emergency cushion for one simple reason: safety, peace of mind, being prepared. The writer is not out here blowing paychecks on nonsense. She's strategic, calculated, smart. So fast forward to her boyfriend, the now ex. They're 6 months into the relationship. Things are getting serious. They have a talk, like mature couples do, about how they'd handle finances if they ever moved in together. The plan? Keep things separate, but split living costs evenly. Totally fair, totally adult, but then it all goes sideways. All because he opens her laptop and stumbles across her sacred spreadsheet. Now remember, this thing is complex. It has summaries, reminders, projections. It tracks everything from grocery spending to how much she's saved for her next vacation. And because she uses a miles credit card to rack up rewards, everything goes on it. Rent, groceries, even taxes. She always pays the card off a few days after her bills clear. But in the spreadsheet, the balance looks massive, because that's how the system works. It tracks the total amount going on the card, not how much she owes long term. But ex-boyfriend? He doesn't ask questions. He doesn't pause. He assumes. He sees the total and thinks she's drowning in debt. He sees names like Macy's, VS Secret, Best Buy, and decides she must have maxed out store credit cards. He doesn't even notice the balance is zero. He doesn't see the discipline. He sees chaos. And instead of sitting down and saying, hey, can we talk about this? He stews on it for days. Then he drops an ultimatum. Cancel every credit card you own right now and shred them in front of me, or I'm done. Not help me understand. Not, this surprised me, can we go over it together? Nope. Just control, shame, and a demand to erase something that clearly gives her emotional stability. She tries to explain. She tells him the truth. She's barely in debt, her savings are healthy, she's managing everything with intention. She even tried to reassure him. But he didn't believe her. He called her a liar. He said he couldn't trust her, and then he dumped her. And honestly, good. Let him go. But here's where it gets really twisted. After the breakup, word gets back to him. Turns out, the truth trickled through mutual friends. Now he knows she's not in debt, she's financially thriving. And suddenly he's angry, not because she lied, but because she didn't fight to keep him. He's pissed she let him dump her. Let that sink in. He jumped to conclusions, accused her of lying, humiliated her, threw down an ultimatum, and walked away. And now he's bitter because she didn't chase him, because she didn't grovel and beg to be kept. That's not regret. That's ego. And let's not forget, this man was perfectly happy to call her irresponsible without having a single real conversation about her finances. He saw a number and filled in the rest with his own insecurities. He didn't respect her enough to ask. And when the truth came out, his anger wasn't about the misunderstanding. It was about control slipping away. Oh, and the cherry on top? She was going to buy him tickets to Italy for their anniversary. This man fumbled a woman who had a plan, a cushion, ambition, and was ready to share that life generously. And now the writer's left wondering, am I the asshole for not explaining things better? For not trying harder to keep him? No, writer, you're not the asshole. You were gaslit, you were controlled, you were accused without evidence, and instead of being met with curiosity, compassion, or respect, you were cornered like a criminal over a misunderstanding. And even if he was right about the debt, that kind of reaction still wouldn't be okay. What you needed was a partner. What you got was a man who saw a spreadsheet and saw red. You didn't let him dump you. You watched him show you who he really was, and you didn't flinch. Let's talk about this. How many of you have been misjudged because someone couldn't handle your independence? Drop your thoughts in the comments, and if this story hit a nerve, hit that like button. And don't forget to subscribe for more raw, dramatic, real-life Reddit stories, because trust me, we've got plenty more where this came from. This wasn't about debt. This was about dignity, and the writer kept hers intact.